Call the meeting to order. 6:03. Is there any change to the agenda or adjustments that folks see? Needing to make?
No.
And with your agreement, then we go ahead with Mark. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Yes.
Great. Welcome, Mark. Thank you for being here.
It's okay right here.
Wherever you like. Yeah, it's fine.
I'm just gonna run through some stuff quickly. I know you've got a long agenda.
Has your head cleared since you?
Sort of. Okay, town highway. All right, so Kari, were you briefed on the whole pilot and all that stuff that went on? Okay.
Yes,
So I'm not gonna, it's $3 million they put into the infrastructure fund that goes to the towns on a formula basis. They put an extra $3 million this year. And then in the future, they created a special fund, and in the future, the excess from the pilot fund came from taxes, which the money comes from the 25%, the 20%. When a town adopts the 1% tax, 20% of that is for the state. The state, or adopts it, puts that 20% in the pilot fund to give back to towns. But there's more, because so many towns, like a dozen towns, have adopted the 1% tax. The extra 1%. There's been a surplus accumulating in the pilot fund, and the question is what to do with it. And what they're gonna do is transfer the surplus every year into this special infrastructure. Into this infrastructure fund. I do not know how much that is. And I don't personally think it's gonna be enough. I mean, in other words, that the amount of money that's been available to towns has been absolutely fixed for like 20 years. The cost of tripled, and so I think there's some relief there, but housing. I don't know, I don't know a lot more. I can find out more for you, but one of the things, we passed an omnibus housing bill, and the bill has amended the section on municipal plans that relate to housing, and I thought I'd just give that to you guys.
Thank you.
So here's the text, I just took it out of the bill.
I have an extra here, Mark.
Here, we knew one for
I do.
Jordan.
Okay. I'll give you I'll give you one when I'm done. with
Okay.
explaining it.
Thanks.
So, the idea, it's interesting. Are you guys familiar with these housing targets?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. Have you been briefed by the regional planning division?
yes, they were here, yeah.
They were here, okay. What's the number for Calais?
The revised number,
30, the revised number, 2030. Just went way up.
40
or
70 or
Something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
roughly.
Yeah. A lot more, I mean, those housing, most rural towns testified that they just didn't know how the hell they would ever meet those numbers. And so the key part of this is it's essentially asking towns, when you revise your housing, don't just say, well, yes, we can make it, or no, we can't. Tell us if you can't, which is what everybody's gonna say. Why not? What's your constraint? I think it's really aimed at trying to figure out what we could change, what we could do to help towns produce more housing. And so that's the purpose there. but it's triggered when you do your plan, you don't have to do it instantly, but. It's, it also. Any residential zoning district now has to allow duplexes. And the duplexes are a permitted, they're now a permitted use. So, you know, they need to build, period. The legislation also creates, just for your information, you passed bills on mobile homes, making it easier. They're now called manufactured homes, easier to cite. They have to be cited in any jurisdiction, anywhere that has residential zoning. We expanded the amount of money available. Devices, there's the 10% for Vermont, is now 12.5% for Vermont. 12.5% of the cash balance state is available for housing. There's just a lot more sources. And of course, the road rule, and this doesn't really matter for us, but the road rule and tier 3 were repealed because of pressure from rural areas. We did create a pilot program to be run by the treasurer's office that has to allow people to have small developments to aggregate them and apply to people who build off-site modular housing. See, the problem is that someone like Huntington Homes, we can go to Huntington with an order of 40 homes. That's a big deal for them. They can give a price that's substantially lower. But in order to do that, we have to aggregate smaller projects in rural Vermont. This is all about helping, this is not the burden. And they can be aggregated and submitted all at once. It's part of the pilot program. Just for a minute on housing, I'd be happy to answer questions later or talk to you offline on housing, but I really feel strongly that it's doable. But of course, we live with the frustration of the legislature knowing that the biggest problem with housing is just too expensive. And you can't make the market. There's places in the state where you could hand land developer, give them the deed for free, and they still couldn't pencil a project that the people who live anywhere near there could possibly buy. And so, and yeah, on the other hand, we don't have enough money for subsidy. Having said that, I do think that if land can be identified and a builder, not a builder, an owner who's willing to do it, that we could find a builder and the zoning would not be an obstacle, and the question, we could start looking for money. It's almost have to be curated. In other words, it isn't just changing your plan. It's much more working on a single project that, let's say, 10 units or something like that. But I don't know, I'll say, I'm just gonna run through the topics then real quick, and then if you want to talk more about anything, the big topics. Education. Interestingly, we were all looking for a stalemate because the governor had been very clear that he wanted a top-down approach of 5 districts, 7 districts, whatever. And the results of all the hearings that we had held were, that's not what we want. They were up for considering consolidation, but they wanted it to grow from the community. And I was pretty much convinced by that. And frankly, there was no way we could put together a map that would get enough agreement to pass the House, much less and the Senate and be signed. It's just too complicated. So with the Ed bill 955 and the yield bill due, it's important is, and the governor in the last 2 weeks of the session just flipped. We think he just, maybe he's holding. Possible. But politically, I think one way or another, the guy looked behind him and there just was nobody there. So. Hi, Jordan. He, I'm talking about education, when he just flipped. So we have a signed education bill and a yield bill that is a tax bill. The bill really facilitates and encourages combination planning districts, but it does not mandate them. And in fact, a vote is required before it can happen. What it does mean is the creation of these CSAs, cooperative educational service areas, which, and what they do though is going to be up to them, but it does mandate that you've got to meet and put together these cooperative service areas. And they have worked in other states, and we have a couple in the state that have saved money. You know, where you're basically looking for a huge range of services that you could put together, and they range from buying your paper towels to special education services. You could do a lot. The bill actually lists the school districts and which CISA they're in, that they can move to a different one. So
it recommends those or it establishes them?
it establishes,
Okay.
I mean, it's mandated. It does, in terms of property tax relief, well, we use general fund money, $104 million in general fund money to buy down property tax. This is not sustainable. I mean, it's, first of all, it's just all taxes. It's just income taxes instead of property taxes. And it's not gonna, it's gonna put us in a fine next year. Because we'll have even less money. And so when you use $100 million for this, well, you can't help. That's money that's not available for the blind or for all the other social services. So it's not a great solution. There are, it will be simpler to file your tax. The benefits of moderate income people are easier to realize under the bill. And there are, but I don't see big, anything. There are structural reforms in the works, there are tax reform in the works. For example, now this was started last year with Act 74 and this year too. Second homes are gonna be taxed at a higher rate. And that will bring more money in and will allow for lower property taxes for everybody else. The problem, I just don't see that. We're talking about a huge budget, $3 billion. I don't see the property tax burden changing quickly. It all comes from the fact, the inconvenient reality that we have fewer and fewer students. And that our costs, even as we eliminate positions, they don't go down. One of the things we did, which really made a difference, was pass a bill that a healthcare bill, which mandated a pricing structure that would substantially reduce costs for a lot of insurance plans particularly the teachers' insurance plan. And that would have, as you, I'm sure you know, healthcare is a big driver of increased education spending, and it really would help. And the governor vetoed it. And I can't speculate. The governor vetoed a number of really important bills. And I can't speculate those reasons because his stated reasons either make no sense or misrepresent what was in the bill. And, you know, there's no reason that for him to do that. He has his reasons, and I can't speculate together because the stated reasons are not.
Mark, can I ask a quick question about the additional tax rate categories like the second home?
Yeah.
Or is that starting this year or when is that slated?
Next year.
Next year, okay.
And it's very defined in the law, like if you wanna know, is this a second home? By the way, just to change the subject briefly, speaking of second homes. Problem, a lot of people fixate on short-term rentals and second homes as our house, you know, oh, we could fix our housing problem. If we just had short-term rentals, dealt with short-term rentals, with second homes, and the problem there is, I don't see that. I just don't see that. We're not, people who have second homes in Vermont and ski areas, there's no political will to tax them so high that it actually convert them to year-round housing. And the short-term rental market is leveled off. You know, we sort of like the cows are out of the barn, I mean, you know, of course, it's done, you know, it's just, the market has softened, and with the Canadians gone, it's down slightly. And also, every town has different attitudes toward short-term rental. You can't do it on a statewide basis, Stowe is so different than, you know, there's places where short-term rentals are really important because there's no hotel, there never will be a hotel, and there's huge need. And so it just depends. Anyway. We did do something on homelessness that the governor actually signed. It's called the homelessness response continuum, which basically is sort of kind of a compromise. Where, remember, we had the situation where the governor just opposed the motel problem, but never had a substitute. And now, and then you have all the homeless advocates saying, well, wait a minute, people are dying. And what do you do? And the homelessness response continuum was a compromise. And I think it's a okay one for a really difficult situation. Briefly, just mention a few other things. We failed to do anything of, there was a real effort to do something about ice and masking. We failed. If you want to call with very detailed, I can give you, but we failed. It's likely illegal for the state to try to control beds that way, but we certainly could have controlled our own police. But we did do other things in data centers. We had a very strong bill on data centers, which passed the House overwhelmingly with bipartisan support. It passed the Senate. The Senate made it even stronger. The governor vetoed it. And we were unable to overlay. I do think we can pass a bill that will be acceptable to the government. Data centers.
You think you'll go back to it next year?
Do I think what?
You're saying you'll bring it back up?
I definitely think it will go back,
Yeah.
and I think it will. We'll find a bill the governor can sign. If he's still governor, and let's just say he is, I think we could find
He
something.
said he would have signed the House bill as it was.
Yes, the problem is, I never know whether to believe that's really how it will play out.
How much of an issue is the data center issue? I mean,
It's how much what?
how much of the issue, how much of an issue is the data center issue? Not nationally, but like for Vermont. I mean, we have a lot of other,
My
like,
view is it's pretty symbolic.
okay,
That is, I have a feeling that, I don't know of anybody planning to build a mega data center in Vermont.
Burning
Vernon, we're down
at the Yankee site.
at the Yankee site.
Mhm.
Well,
And, yeah.
yeah, I'm just not sure that it, but it's a huge problem. And states that have these data centers are reeling from
Sure.
having bad deals over the energy costs. It's, I mean, entirely aside from what they do to the environment because of hot water. And PFAS and other things, and I just put that aside, they, unless you negotiate very hard and a good deal, the demand for energy is greater than the extra supply provided, and the cost goes way up, and they will fail. Wealth taxes. We failed. I would say that there is a substantial possibility that a bill could emerge next year. There's been a lot of work that's done on it. Quite a few states have, increased the taxes on people who are very wealthy. The reason is that it's not because, it's not aimed at the idea that the wealthy are bad, it's that the wealthy have, the top 1% of taxpayers now, on average, have received the benefit of $57,000 per annum in lower federal taxes. But the federal government is moving back from so many services and throwing it on the state. There's no, we don't have the money. And so the question is, what can we do about it? I will say that if the governor is reelected, it's hard for me to believe that he wouldn't veto it. That doesn't mean we wouldn't try. The major argument people make, and then I'm done, the major argument people make is that if you increase the taxes on very wealthy people, they'll leave the state. The evidence in other states is overwhelmingly that they do not. That is not why an extra cut, it's just not motivated. They have people like that have other reasons. I will say that I'm not convinced 100% that would be the case in Vermont. The reason is, first of all, we're talking about very few people. And second of all, a lot of people in Vermont, they're 4 months a year in Florida or wherever. And if it's just an extra 2 months, and then you're no longer a resident. So it might be a little easier for some people just to sort of change their residency in Vermont. But I don't know, and I support the concept. We need money. These are individuals who have received major benefits from the Trump tax cuts and the Reagan tax cuts and the Bush tax. And saying to them, look, these are services that were provided by the federal government. Now we have to provide them, so we have to pay for them. Not a reason. That's it. There's a gazillion other issues, but I just wanted to cover the top ones, and I'm happy to talk to any one of you or all of you today. And I made the irrational decision. Chris is not going to comment.
Well, we appreciate your service as always.
Okay.
So Jordan, Mark started with town highways and housing, so. We'll have to have you listen back.
I'll
For
listen
that.
back. I apologize for the delayed arrival getting
Not
out
at
of
all.
Marion, but.
There's not enough money for town highway.
Yeah.
And your housing, yeah. Why you can't build 40 new housing units by 2030 and you get around to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would just say we are having a housing conversation, which you might already be aware of, and that, there might be a request to, once we get a group together, that it would be great to go deeper, do it.
And
deeper.
I'm really happy to work with such a group, where I
Right.
talk to you, I have a lot of thoughts about housing, it's a very difficult
Hmm.
issue.
With regard to the road or town highways and there not being any money, was the topic of, Moscow.
We just talked about the bridge
come up?
before the meeting started, and actually I got a couple of leads to pursue.
Oh,
Ideas for grants.
good.
It was helpful.
I'll send you this,
Okay,
and Saunders.
And Chris
Perfect.
Saunders, yeah,
Yeah,
perfect,
thank you.
excellent.
Excuse me, Mark, something that I've been thinking about recently about housing is that, you know, I grew up here and I saw that the town change over from older people to younger people. And in 20 years, we're gonna have the same thing happen, let's face it. And, you know, new houses have been built in that time since I was a kid. But I think we're gonna build that many. And they're gonna have a lot of, you're gonna have vacancies coming here in 20 years that are gonna be quite dramatic, I think.
It is true. I've often wondered what happens when my generation disappears. Just two comments. One is, in the meantime, before we disappear, it would be really great if we built units so that people who are trapped in the 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom old house paying utility bills, who don't want to be there, have a place that is much smaller, that has services that they can move into.
I agree 100% with that, absolutely.
That's one.
And want to stay in the town, yeah.
The other thing that I realized, we held hearings on the whole issue of what's the relationship between population, housing, and price. Because if there are people who argue, if you just build a lot of houses, the price comes down. Well, it turns out that the big driver of the need for housing in Vermont is not population, obviously. It's household size. The household size has just gone down and down and down at a greater rate than anticipated in those housing targets. Those housing targets understated the decline in housing. So instead of having 3.2 people per house, you have 1.4. That's the driver.
Oh, thank you. I am certainly not going to ask that you can cover ground in my absence, but I'll go back and I do have some thoughts that maybe we'll find some time to discuss. So thank you, Mark, and thanks for the time to come in and update us. I appreciate it.
Nicest part of my job.
That's great. All right,
Do you want to just keep running with it, Barbara? Just like.
are you feeling it?
I don't know what.
Okay. Appointments.
Yeah,
Next,
indeed.
yeah.
So next up on the agenda are appointments. And I think rightly, we have kind of a slate of considered resignations to consider as the first kind of business under this topic, which would include consideration of resignation of John McCullough from the Planning Commission, as well as Kathy Kirk Jansen from the DAB, and Linda from the Swimming Committee. There's rest.
Jordan, can I just clarify, because I wasn't clear from John's resignation letter that he was entirely leaving the planning commission, is that the case? It just says he's stepping down as secretary?
Yep.
He's leaving the planning
He's,
commission.
he is leaving.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And is currently serving as secretary, yeah. But my understanding is that he is still committed to his role at,
Zoning.
and zoning,
Right.
yeah. And that this shouldn't impact that, though it's a perspective I'm sure is appreciated on the planning commission, and in absence, that's, a little worrisome relative to their scope of work, for sure. Does anybody have any questions, about any of the other resignations? I think the circumstances relative to all of them are understandable. And certainly want to acknowledge, their contributions and commitments to these roles, service to these roles. With that, I think it would be appropriate to accept all three of the resignations. Can I get a motion to do so?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Thank you very much. And then the next one, it looks like there's been a slight change, because we're considering appointments to Emergency Management Committee, Planning Commission, Development Review Board, and the Trails Committee. And like there was a withdrawal of an application for the EMC, is that right?
Yeah, so I'm still in conversation with Corinna Lau, but I had asked Corinna to attend the Emergency Management Committee meeting last Thursday.
Uh-huh.
And she got back to me and said that she has a pretty firm work commitment on a Thursday, like the third Thursday of the month. And so just kind of like very abruptly said, if they meet on that Thursday, then I guess I have to withdraw my application. I followed back up today, an email and said, that's currently their schedule, but I mean, if you wanted to serve, I'm sure there's, something that can be said about changing the schedule around, and I've not heard back from her yet, so. Makes sense to just hold off on her application.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think maybe we'll just table that one and just keep the conversation going if that's a role that she's really interested in. It sounds like there's gonna be some evolution and change there on the Emergency Management Committee, so if things kind of change in her favor, I guess, for participating, then we'll just leave that kind of on the back burner. With that, going in the reverse order and starting with the Trails appointment, does that make sense? So we have a application for Bob Patterson. Welcome.
Thank you.
This is I think a pretty straightforward committee, not requiring a very elaborate interview, but I wanted to certainly welcome the opportunity for you to do a brief introduction and express why you're interested in serving on the Trails Committee.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. I have been a user of the trails in Calais for an extremely long time, and I think I know most of the people here, and you've probably seen me biking, running, and on the trails quite a bit. If you're out there. Did help put together, construct the trails in the town for us. One of a few folks that did that back in the day. And I just I had a little more time on my hands, and I would just like to see what I can do to help out. I think it's a great resource for folks, and a great opportunity for mental health and physical health to get out there and utilize those trails. And yeah, so that's it. Just what can I do to kind of help out with this committee? Yeah, I think that's happy to answer any questions you might have.
You also have a network of people that who also use the trails. Right?
Yes.
So when there's
yes.
volunteer needs.
Right. Some of them are your milk.
Just saying. Great.
Great, well, thank you, Bob. Are there any other select board members who have questions? Um. Well, thanks for expressing an interest on the technical side of things. It sounds like, well, for one, Tom actually is welcoming Bob's addition to the committee and correctly noted that this would be the appointment to a partially served term.
Right.
So do we have the end of the term by chance?
Hold up.
I think it was 27.
27.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's
It says 2028,
Oh,
June 30th, 2028.
I don't know, are you still willing?
It's not that Thursday.
There's one meeting a year, so that's a whole.
Not heavy on the meeting.
with that information, I'd like to entertain a motion to appoint Bob to the Trails Committee.
So moved.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Bob.
it.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
So the next would be the Development Review Board. It's an application by Jordan Hepburn. See, Jordan is here. Welcome.
Thank you.
And this is for a one of the open alternate positions on the DRB. That's your understanding, right?
I saw there was alternate and there was other ones that said really matter to me.
All right. I believe that it's just the alternate opening, is that right?
Yeah, we just have, opening on the DRB is, there is a clerk's position and there are 2 alternate positions open.
Oh, right. So the clerk position yeah, it's just,
That's a paid
it's
position.
it's a paid position, for somebody to serve, basically as kind of like a secretary for the DRB, for hearings, really, and not just for general meetings, but otherwise there's an alternate position. Do you want to speak briefly to your interest in serving on the DRB?
I got an email with name on it, wasn't sure exactly why. But I assumed it was for the DRB application.
Mhm.
I think I have the expertise to provide good input. I agree with wide development, not all developments. We need to find a balance. For a number of reasons. Mark said about housing and our school and our district. Going to find a growth. Well, to go into the position. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, well, so the DRB is a pretty structured and formal role. So even as an alternate, if you're asked to serve in a hearing, those are pretty kind of structured circumstances, and require pretty deep understanding of the town's regs. And I mean, I don't personally know you, but I know through a handful interactions that you've had with the town over the last couple of years that you certainly seem to understand certain needs in kind of the development and construction space relative to excavation. But do you feel fairly confident in your understanding of the town regs and the town plan?
I've been through a number of times, I think with a willingness to grow and some, a little bit of homework. And in the case of reviewing a case, I would definitely go to the regs. All senior. Basically,
So, I think the current kind of iteration of the DRB has done a really good job. They've kind of had like a fairly light role or light schedule, I think, in the last couple of years. But one of the things that they've really kind of committed themselves is still regularly meeting and seeking educational opportunities, which generally doesn't come with an expense to the people who are serving as members of the committee, but does require a time commitment for sure, and a commitment to learning those things. Do you have any constraints on your time to attend? I think they're usually remote trainings from like Central Vermont Regional Planning or sometimes the VLTC will run trainings. Is that something you'd be open to pursuing?
yeah,
As an alternate?
I mean, I find time to do things that grow with fears, town, falls. It didn't seem like it was super intensive, but created a select board here.
Well, yes and no. I mean, they have to act in a quasi judicial capacity, frankly, more so than we do.
And we do, yeah, it's
And
hearings, I mean.
and have hearings that have very kind of specific rules of engagement and that sort of thing. And that's largely what the trainings are, to learn like what the do's and don'ts are under those circumstances.
So we're talking trainings once a month that could be.
Oh, no, I mean, it's maybe a handful of them a year or something like that. And it's one of those things where you go through it once, and generally you don't have to keep going through it. But I think as an alternate, I think that is a great role or position for learning more about it, especially now as they're in kind of like this pattern of kind of meeting and discussing training opportunities for folks. But yeah, that's generally coordinated with the chair and then like the select board or town administrator to get signed up for usually web-based trainings or something like that.
It doesn't sound like what they.
Right, okay. Sounds good. Are there select board members that have any other questions?
I'm just curious why, I don't know if you've actually served on other town committees or volunteered before, what your focus on the DRB in particular is about. What's the connection to the DRB, and have you volunteered with other committees?
I haven't volunteered with committees
Okay,
in town.
Yeah.
I guess I have some years ahead of me, I'd like to think. So we're looking at the future, Calais,
Mhm.
we gotta start somewhere. Development and is interesting.
Mhm.
Compared to trails or planning conservation, maybe.
Great, and you've been to those meetings, so you're familiar with sort of the proceedings and that kind of thing, but. What it takes on, okay, thank you.
So one of my concerns, I guess, I mean, I see this as kind of a benefit and a concern, for someone in your position. Obviously, you have a lot of experience with doing excavation work and performing that work and working for folks who are considering subdivisions or kind of development activities on their parcels, which on one hand offers a lot, I think, of technical expertise, but on the other hand, can put you in a position of potential for conflict of interest, and needing to recuse yourself from participation in a particular hearing. Yeah, I guess without getting into the specifics of what those situations could be, have you thought about how that may come up, and are you comfortable recusing yourself if need be or if requested?
Yeah, I mean, an alternate is kind of a position where somebody else has kind of chosen to, keep themselves out of a conflict of interest. So I have considered that. I think being skeptical of conflict of interest, throughout government is pretty common. Where you're having that skepticism exists very loudly and curtain. So, yeah, I understand that, if I were in the process that those rumors do exist out there. Want to be part of them. Step back will be a wise decision.
Sure. Yeah, that's really all. I'm not implying really anything. I just, and anybody who's in building or any of the trades could find themselves in a position where they're being asked to recuse more so than others, but at the same time, I think it's a valuable perspective to have for a group who's reviewing the responsible development within the community. So that kind of resolves my questions, and thanks. I appreciate the time to come in and answer questions, and for considering service in the town. So service to the town in this capacity. So with that, I would like to entertain a motion to appoint Jordan Hepburn as alternate to the DRB.
I'll second, but I think you said in here, you haven't had a chance to reach out to the chair or anybody on DRB to talk more. That's just something that sometimes is helpful.
I saw on Front Porch Forum that you guys were looking for volunteers, and I filled out the application, and then I got an email saying
Come to the meeting.
there's a meeting with no other contacts. So I assumed it would,
Yeah,
I didn't go reach now and see, hey,
no,
choose me,
Yeah. Well, it's a little unique, because the DRB, is one of those committees that doesn't necessarily have to meet unless there's a need to, and they've been kind of good about like coming together as a group, even when there isn't an application to try to discuss training opportunities, et cetera. But like with the other subcommittees, we tend to encourage folks to reach out to the chair and attend a meeting, but this is one of those situations where it's a little harder to do that. So I would certainly encourage you to
there's a woman at the East Calais store.
Yeah.
She was an alternate. I chatted with her about it. I mean, she gave me contact. it says we don't really need too much and we're asked to serve once or twice a year.
Mhm.
Sometimes a whole meeting. I don't think others capable meeting.
Yeah. So I think to, more Jamie's point, I'd encourage you, we can follow up and provide the, chair's contact info and encourage you to reach out, at least have a conversation and have a conversation about the alternate, position and how it could, what would be the best course for you to participate in any upcoming meetings, and see if she's got a list of upcoming trainings that might be good, yeah, that sounds great. So I believe there was a second, all those in favor? Aye. There you go, none opposed, thank you, Jordan, appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Next up is the planning commission. We have an application for Lucas. Or Luke. So thank you for the application. Your participation and appointment came at the recommendation of the outgoing chair, so that's pretty high praise. Would you like to, I guess, do a brief introduction and maybe speak to your interests?
Sure. Yeah. So thanks for having me. I think, so for me, the reason why I applied was, I was at the Vermont Economic Forum earlier this year. And I really wanted to be involved for work reasons, but I went and, there was a lot that came out of that meeting that was kind of hammering along the same points around how we need to consider jobs, how we need to consider housing, how all of these things are intertwined. And it painted kind of a dire picture for Vermont. Basically likened us to Japan in terms of Japan's aging and declining population 20 years ago. And then we're starting to see those same trends in Vermont. And without change, we could face a lot of the same issues that Japan has, which is that the underpinnings of their economy is falling out from underneath them. And so going there and kind of participating in that and learning more, I thought, that one of the charges that they had was get involved with housing, get involved with planning. And, I care a lot about the long-term viability of the state and of Calais. And so that was the reason why I wanted to be involved. I don't have planning in my background. I manage IT for the state of Vermont. But coincidentally, I actually am spearheading one of Governor Scott's, well, I wouldn't say spearheading, I'm on the executive committee for one of Governor Scott's programs to modernize permitting across the state, which I think is, obviously it's not the root of the issue, but it certainly will help to have a single source for permitting that can be used for constituents to see where they're at in the permitting process. So I think that'll give me some context, but just really looking, for whatever capacity I can to involve in that committee. And I get now that we're kind of at an interesting inflection point where we're considering hiring a consultant to help with the final stages of the plan. So it may or may not be a really good time to be involved to oversee that.
I don't know that it wouldn't be a good time. I don't think it's, I certainly don't think it's a bad time. I think it's a time of need for sure.
Yeah.
I hear and appreciate your acknowledgement that there may be kind of a limited background or relevant work experience to planning, but I think certainly from my perspective, the planning commission really benefits from having diverse backgrounds and professional experience because at the end of the day, they're very task-based and project-based, and some of those are very robust things. I think right now it's probably fair to say that they're dealing with how do you eat an elephant type situation. And that requires a lot of project management skills and timeline management, and the collating of resources. I do think that Vermont tends to have pretty good professional resources available to it through various organizations that are supported through the state for offering consultation and technical support for the planning side, but the coordinating of that input is more challenging, or can be more challenging, especially for volunteers. So I don't know where other than it's just kind of helpful context, I
There's
think.
one thing I have done is
Yeah.
managing large scale projects for a very long time, so
Yeah.
and I feel like it follows a lot of the same principles of just making sure that there are milestones, there are timetables, and who you need what from, and that's nothing new. I think it's the minutia that I'll be excited to learn more about.
Yeah. Do other committee members have, or board members have questions that they'd like to offer up?
Yeah, okay, so we've got the outgoing chair and have a sense of what the plan commission does, and the plans out there, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've been attending meetings for the past month or two.
Great.
Good.
Meadow, do you have the term? Is this a continuance of another term? Or is this an open one?
Jared's term, and it is expiring in 2029.
Okay. So this would be an appointment to the continuance of a term ending in 2029.
Yep.
Doable for you?
That's, I mean, yes, that's it's doable as far as I see it right now.
Right.
Taking it 1 month at a time.
Yeah. One day at a time.
Well, I would like to entertain a motion to appoint Luke Becker to the planning commission.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And
We'll see more of you at that.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'll save the rest of the commentary, I think, for the next time we visit, but I think we're probably gonna have a chance to chat sooner than later.
Yeah, if there, I don't know how often the planning commission is here to update the select board. That could be something that I'm helping with as well. So,
Great.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think so.
Late.
Yeah, I think we're.
Not a criticism, just you. Everybody.
Yeah, no, I think, well, so in general, we're trying to get a little bit more structured and how we kind of work through our check-ins with various subcommittees, particularly like the planning commission and a few of them that need more kind of timely input on things that they're working on through the year. And it's been, well, so we've tabled a couple of conversations with the planning commission, so they're due, I guess, for a check-in here for the spring, which would largely focus on a status update of the town plan. And we've now just kind of started to get some input on the potential need for organizing outside resources or using a consultant, the CVRPC, to help bring it across the finish line. So did the planning commission meet recently? Did they have to, didn't sound like maybe they didn't have a quorum at their last meeting?
I saw a cancellation in Front Porch Forum.
They missed the opportunity, I think, to adequately warn maybe the meeting or something, and had to miss it. So I think they're due for having a meeting. Then shortly thereafter, I'm sure we'll try to work the planning commission onto an upcoming agenda to get an update.
Yeah, I think we should, especially if we're bringing in the Central Vermont
Yeah,
group to do consulting, and then, depending on what that looks like and what their timetables look like some sort of update on like, what's the handoff and how long it's gonna take, and now that we have down whether, when's this thing gonna be running? I'd be happy to come back and provide the update, though. That's
Great.
what is helpful.
yeah, thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, because we're a little off track on scheduling, if we might want to table discussion of emergency management director until later in the meeting, maybe into reports, if that makes sense for everyone.
Okay.
And that will bring us up to the private maintenance and public right of way permits and applications that we have to consider.
Can I just chime in and say, we had, I just want to make sure everyone's aware of what's on the table. There were 6 applications in the folder Friday and 2 additional ones that came in yesterday, including Peter's, which I emailed this morning.
Yeah.
And then we just got an additional one from the Fannons. I don't know if you want to consider those.
That's an email.
Yeah, the email was just forwarded to you.
Yeah.
So that's what's been applied for anyway.
So how many does that make?
9?
Right.
Did your accounting, TJ?
TJ was one of the ones that came in yesterday.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ninth one is Craig Lines, which isn't actually an application from this year. So there are 8 full applications from this year, and then
And Craig's, yeah, it was,
Yeah, we filed.
Craig indicated early on that he replied, he just didn't fill out the form.
Great.
And I'll say, as opposed to curb cuts or use of right of way, we don't do an extensive review of these. We're just sort of. Usually we get a lot of, in my experience, repeat applications. This year, there's more unique ones.
This is a lot more than we've had before. I'm curious, since this is all a relatively new thing, if it keeps growing at this rate, I mean, I think it's a really good thing in a lot of ways. But I am curious about impacts on town mowing patterns and.
Yeah, I talked with, Ogden is sort of our lead mower, and Bill can speak to this, Bill has some experience with it, but keeping track is a bit of a challenge. They have a map that I let them know. I've let them know who's applied, assuming that most likely most people are gonna be approved, so he keeps track using a map, and I think that will be good. We also ask people to mark the roadside as well, so that should help.
Well, does that happen? Are people?
I think
I
so.
mean, I've seen a couple.
Yeah, I think it does.
But I would say beyond that, the work still needs to get done. This means the person who owns the property needs to mow it
Right.
at some point.
Right.
And have, for the ones who've been approved in the past, has that been happening?
Can't tell you, not sure anybody follows up on
What has in my case.
Yeah, I
it.
mean,
You called me and I went up and did it.
I mowed my roadside. You came by, wanted to cut a high up tree, or,
I did the roadside too, is that my
I
memory?
did,
Okay.
and so I'm very aware of this, I've been on it for 10 years. And I was concerned about the seed. I think you washed the mower
Mhm.
and then you mowed the trees up top
Mhm.
and washed it to get the seed removed. So, but I don't know if everyone has the equipment I have to do that.
Right, I just think over time, we should sort of keep an eye on.
There's a sense in which, the mower shouldn't need to know, right? If it's done, it's done. If it's been maintained, it's been maintained. And I think, sort of, just from a customer service point of view, I've asked if it's not done, let me know so I can talk to the landowner, but the more people that are in this situation, the more of a headache that's going to be. So it's really incumbent on the, applicant, the permit holder to do their, what's expected.
That mower is only a 4-foot mower. It's only mowing width like this.
Yeah.
What a lawnmower does.
Well, if trivil's the issue, it should be mowed, should have been mowed before now, and that way
Right.
this wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, and I think that kind of gets a little more at the crux of what I see as the problem. I mean, from my perspective and interpretation of this type of thing, we have current ordinances that exempt landowners for performing their own mowing in the right of way. It is, so you shouldn't inherently need to get permission to manage that growth as a property owner. What I think we're running into here is an invasive issue that, the town's performance of its own mowing is now behind schedule for dealing with the chervil in a timely manner. And I think that is a scheduling conversation that we should probably have sooner than later. About how we're planning for the scope of work to be done. I share Bill's concern that if we're not demonstrating that we can schedule the work and have it performed in a timely manner, that we're just going to start reaching an unsustainable level of requests for people to not have their segment of property mowed in a particular time frame. And now that becomes this cycle of managing expectations about who's doing what and when. And, I really do, appreciate people's concern about this issue and willingness to participate in mitigating it by doing what they can as a property owner to remove the chervil in a timely manner or perform the mowing when it needs to be mowed. But I also want to acknowledge that the town has an obligation to make sure that that area gets mowed. And we do, of course, need to balance that with all of the priorities that the road crew have, but this is one of the primary obligations and functions in this season of work. And so we need to be responsive and responsible in how we're executing that work. Hold on, John. So I haven't had the opportunity, frankly, to review all of these. But are all of these basically requests for people to self-perform mowing?
Yes, or,
Yeah.
because of the concern of invasives.
All but one are invasives, and there was one who just said aesthetic reasons
Right,
and to prevent erosion.
right.
And
I think
so,
Jeff and Sharon Fenn also want, I think it's got the foreman today, I sent them a link and they may not be very hard.
Yeah, they cited
It's
chervil.
confirmation. Thank you.
And have we, is there any need for discussion on how these are marked and what are we using, like grade stakes? And I mean, there are a couple of instances of signs being used, like,
There isn't a standardization, but each applicant mentions in the application how they're planning to create signage to designate the beginning and end of the moat area.
Yeah, I don't believe that's been an issue.
The application asks them to say what kind of signage they're planning to put up. I mean, we could standardize it if the road crew had problems knowing where they were.
Well, you can't expect the road crew to know where everybody lives either. That's been a problem too.
Right.
well, I think they're two different things. I think it is both appropriate for the parcel owner to designate where those starting and stopping times are, but I also think that it to a certain degree makes sense to make those consistent, and so that the person who's performing the work knows what they're looking for, frankly. And so that it's not a distraction for traffic, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of validity in saying like that we should have some consistency in how that is, but I think we can also afford to save that for another time. John, you had a comment. Thanks for holding on. Great. I'm gonna continue to use that as a strategy. Yes.
I would add, I just did our roadside, which is over 1,000 feet, last week, and I found one bend was already going to seed. So East Montpelier started a couple of weeks earlier than this, but they still waited until it went to flower. And the recommendations are before it goes to flower. And it starts coming up as soon as the snow melts. As soon as there's no snow cover, it'll come up where the snow isn't. So it's something that, yeah, I would like to see you working on this earlier.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that input. That certainly isn't lost on me. And I mean, I've noticed a number of, I noticed it getting later and later in the season, not just in Calais, but in other communities. And it is an issue that I am sensitive to and appreciative of personally. But I am also, I frankly, like, I think that there's an opportunity for collaboration with the Conservation Commission and creating some communication around best practices, how property owners can participate. Personally, where I see there being a knowledge gap is not the merits or why it needs to be done, but very specifically when it needs to be done, how it should be done, like what is maybe a resource for that we can offer or a service that we can offer as a town to make it easier for property owners to engage in something that is sustainable, that is either solarizing them in bag and disposal or something. Like, how can we be a little more coordinated in our effort to deal with this in a way that really is going to require landowner participation? Because even in Calais, I think, frankly, it's a scale of a problem that goes beyond just best practices of the road crew. I think it's everybody's collective effort, right? So, but I don't want to diminish the fact that we need to probably schedule some time to talk about what is the seasonality of these workloads that the crew is having, and if it's a personnel availability issue, then we need to be having a conversation about.
I remember
how
one
we're
question
getting ahead of it.
and had to do with that.
Yeah.
So we had former iteration of the select board had budgeted for a part-time person to be hired. Understand the road crew was busy cleaning up after mud season and everything, and now they're hitting it, right, still, all the rain. That we have budgeted a separate person who's, you don't need to have a CDL on that tractor.
Yeah.
So, I don't remember how that all panned out. But if the, he can run a tractor, so, so not to take away from the resources of the road crew, but have someone who's seasonally, and it's a great job for a college kid, or Jordan.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I appreciate the feedback. I think it's an important conversation. The circumstances are a little bit different, because now we have a collective bargaining, agreement that governs, you know, how we have conversations about what work we're hiring out and whether it's part-time or not. And those aren't insurmountable conversations by any stretch of the imagination. But we do have to be mindful of how we're engaging in that conversation. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, that while running a tractor is not impossible to figure out, you know, I don't want to diminish it, but it is, there are very specific safety concerns, and there's the operation of town equipment and all of those things to kind of balance. And frankly, like, the scope of work is not insignificant, so it is going to be for the better portion of likely the summer and early spring. And there's a couple of other things that I can think of that are gonna come into play with other kind of vegetation management that reduce the risk and impact to the equipment that I think that I'd like to see a little more commitment towards. Plus, that doesn't even get into the training around the expectations on, like, how to deal with the invasives and, like, where are they getting identified, et cetera, et cetera. So whether it's somebody who's doing it on a part-time basis or somebody who's doing it on a contract basis or a full-time basis, there needs to be some pretty specific training associated.
I don't know if the road guy, he's a young guy, maybe he's had all this training. I'm kind of doubting it. I'll bet it's his first time running a tractor too.
No, well, I don't think that that's a fair assumption, but again, that's just kind of, that's a training conversation and different, but
I do think that like all of us, the select board
Yeah.
is committed to
Yeah.
continuing to work on this issue, and I think the you know, the concern that the community has raised through these applications, but otherwise is not small, and it's you know, I think everyone feels it and can see entire fields already that are being impacted, so I think the matter at hand is these applications, and I think we can move on them.
Yeah.
And put this for further discussion at another time, if that's.
Yeah.
Peter.
Peter.
I just want to point out that the town has already participated in a study with, I think, 6 other towns. And so that's in the record. If you can't find it, I have a copy of it. I'll tell you the name of it. But it includes the number of the invasives and when they go to seed, and how to identify them, how often to mow, when to mow. It's pretty detailed. I attended a presentation of that by the woman who did that. It was, I think, working for the state forestry department or the federal forestry.
No, state forestry and
It's a state, and I attended her presentation to both Marshfield and here, and the road crews not happy about it. But it has been attempted. I've been, this is my 11th year working on this. And previous select board did allow me to not have all of Fowler Road, all of Bliss Pond Road, all of Old West Church Road and another road not mowed for 3 years, so that I could keep track of what my reading, how effective it was. And turned out that in most cases it wasn't effective because the seeds are dormant for up to 6 years or more. So no flowers went to seed on the 6 miles of roadside that I walked and then looked for plants every weekend for 3 months of most of the, well, all of those years. And we still don't, sure. Because
The plow spreads it too, when they wing. They grab the dirt and they pull it from.
water spreads.
So again,
Yeah.
So I will get this to you.
yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. So I'd like to, just, if these are all, relatively uniform in request, and terms, then I'd like to, entertain a motion to, approve the 9 received
I can
applicants.
say something before you
Yes.
do that. Everybody except for one. The town requires that you do an application every year,
Mhm.
Um,
and one person didn't do that. And I would rather approve the 8 and let the 9th person do their application like everybody else has to do.
I think,
In my opinion.
that's a fair request. So, with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve and accept the, 8 applicants, that were, applications that were submitted. Prior to the meeting,
So moved.
Second,
all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you for that,
And
Bill.
thank you, Bill, I appreciate that. And sorry, if you could, please communicate that approval out to the relative, property
Yeah,
owners.
the problem is the application came out really late.
Yeah.
So if someone didn't file an application this year timely. And so they're gonna get mowed and have seeds spread all over their property. It's not really fair.
I don't think that's the implication. We're gonna work with the homeowner.
So we
Get it.
won't mowing until they.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's not,
There's
there's not an
Well,
aggressive,
they need
it's
to.
not an aggressive approach here. You just need to follow, everyone needs to be
You have to
aware.
put signs up.
Yeah.
So, road doesn't know where the property line, so.
Thanks for the feedback. So, with that, we have, some other highway department, oh, no, we're, period, public comments. Are there other members of the public present who were planning on commenting on anything or raising any feedback, on anything that is not currently on the agenda?
Okay.
Could that be heard? Just,
What's that?
well, I just don't know if the people online could hear your,
Yeah, David, or Linda, or I think you're the only other member of the public, in attendance who may need the public comment period. Well, I'd like to move forward then. Hearing none.
no,
The highway department, topic. So, next up, we have an update on the Moscow Woods Bridge.
Yep, so, the bridge was reopened. Single lane, the engineer let us know it's a 12,000 pound limit, which is very restrictive. That's less than, yeah, well, I think, well, it's certainly less than our 14-wheelers with sand in them, than a tanker, a pump or fire truck, or a school bus even. So I've communicated that new limit to everybody I can think of. It's posted, it will be posted once we get the signs, and posted on the website as well. But it's,
Road crews keeping an eye on it, because as it develops new pits.
are they keeping an eye on it? Yeah, we haven't talked about it. We didn't talk about it today, but I will make sure that they're doing that.
Yeah,
Is you're saying it's eroding, it's eroding all
it
again?
keeps developing new pits,
Right,
yeah.
fill back in. Yeah, so, we were talking about it earlier today. What are the, grant opportunities? I have a meeting with Vermont Emergency Management later this week. to explore that more, so we're just gonna be beating the bushes to find out where we can come up with the funds, because.
I think the
It's a matter of
access for emergency vehicles is a really important aspect of it. As you pointed out, there's hydrants on the other side of the bridge.
Right. But it was 2.1 million last year's estimate. We actually, got a debt service schedule from the bond bank, 2.3 million, just to give you a sense, 2.3 million at 4.3% last year's going rate. For 20 years was 170,000 a year. It's like 10% of our budget or something. Getting close to that. So we need as much grant support as we can possibly find. But I think this conversation we'll have to start making decisions.
Yeah.
When we do our capital planning this year.
I remember a long time ago that the state wanted to pave from Route 12 all the way across North Calais Road, out there and up. They wanted a paved route all the way to Route 2, basically. This is decades old now, but that's what they wanted to do, because that was an east-west route.
Yeah.
You know, to get across things faster, not going through Montpelier and all that. So the state considers it a pretty significant route. I don't know how we tell them, hey, we need some help with this, or there's gonna, it's gonna be getting across.
Yeah.
Raider can't even get across at 12.
That's interesting, because most of that is actually a federal highway with DOT, except that it doesn't go to Moscow Woods, it goes up North Calais just into Foster Hill.
Does it?
Yeah. That's the federal.
That's what I've been saying for at least months now. And
Contemplating.
So I guess I'm actually because I'm gonna ask a question, but no, I guess having attended the CVRPC's like Transportation Advisory Board or meeting previously as alternate, and now looks like I'm gonna be attending the next two to fill in for David Ellenbogen, because he's gonna miss those two. I think CVRPC is in that particular group is a really great place to ask that question. It is a pretty significant traffic pattern, I think, and my concern is that just listening to the other representatives from within that group, who like representatives from other towns, that there's a long list of bridges like Moscow Woods, or even more significant than Moscow Woods Bridge, and they've been lingering for years. And I don't really.
Ours is older.
I am not optimistic about what the response is going to be, and saying, yeah, but this one's really important. But I do think one of the first steps is investigating that designation as a federal aid highway. If for only because it then goes from like an 80% coverage to a 95% coverage.
And also you would stop talking.
And I would also.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But, one of the other, I think we should absolutely do that. So there's, what do we need to do to do that?
And there is a program as a federal aid highway that for projects exceeding $20 million, you can put in a toll road, and maybe we propose to put in a toll road.
Okay. Okay.
Worcester to.
Yeah, cause that's collaboration for you.
Just make it a full bridge, if you're right.
With trolls.
Obviously, with trolls.
Okay, but the other thing I just wanted to make one other comment, which is that when I saw the message about Moscow Woods, was of course king rain all weekend and various times, and it just, brought to mind the list of the other projects, not just the bridge, right? And we've talked about that, and just the fact that, to contemplate 170K a year to manage is of course not something that we feel we could undertake, but the reality is the other however many projects that we have also lost funding for various reasons
Yeah.
for, like, the culvert right over here that I was, as I was riding my bike by, I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of water in there. So anyway, just thinking about that, wanting to revisit that question as we had Mark's great recommendation for a possible person to investigate this. That it might not just be isolated to Moscow Woods, that it's, to the bridge, but that it's multiple, projects that we have in our future. And again, the other point about collaborating with other communities, and is there something in that? And obviously here at the regional level, you're already talking. Well, stop there.
Are there other designs, or it just seems wild to me that the short, pretty small bridge like that is twice the cost of the Curtis Pond Dam.
Well,
I
that's,
just wonder if it's worth,
Yeah.
if that's another avenue of like, are there other designs, is there a option that would be a permanent one-lane bridge, but have enough weight limit that would cost less to build, just having some of those.
And I keep thinking, we're doing the dam removal, or someone is doing the dam removal, that's gonna affect the bridge. They talked about, needing to mitigate the impacts on the bridge. I mean, we're about to have a big engineering project right there.
Yeah.
It seems like an opportunity to, get some fresh thinking about how we could fix the bridge at the same time.
If I remember correctly, I think the design and the preliminary design for a replacement took into consideration and was amended
Yeah.
to presume the dam being
Yeah.
removed. So,
Okay.
and part of what increased the price was that with the dam removed, it also
It puts more pressure.
puts more pressure on the bridge, and so they had to widen the expanse.
I think that the dam removal design will temporarily constrain the channel. It is a small bridge, but it's actually supposed to be twice as large to span what's the bankful width.
Natural width.
Yeah, but they will keep it tight,
Because we're not.
because of the
fixing
bridge.
Bridge,
Recognizing the bridge won't be
they
ready.
had to change their dam removal
Yeah,
device.
which is basically just a bunch of riprap, I think,
Yeah.
just, bringing it
Funnel it in.
to where we need it to be.
You can't use a big culvert, huh?
I guess not, I don't know.
Because the bank for width isn't gonna change. I mean, it's gonna stay where it is now, but you put a big honking culvert in there, I know the state doesn't want us to do that, but.
Well, I think to get any kind of grant funding, it needs to be designed to what it should be.
I know. What did the culvert cost on Single Road, the big one you put in there?
It was close to 500,000.
That's it.
So next steps for this, is there anything else that we can be proactive about other than trying as select board members to beat the bushes on funding opportunities, collaborative opportunities, something?
That's the project.
Okay,
We have this preliminary design already,
We do.
but not a detailed one. You have to.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one thing, so the BRIC grant, the federal BRIC grant, which is the scoping study that was done on this culvert was a BRIC grant. It's a FEMA sort of preventative, forward thinking kind of grant. That went away for a year, but now it's back apparently. And it will only fund shovel-ready projects, so we may want to just go ahead and get the detailed designs so that we are in a position to apply for that grant, that type of grant in the future. That's one approach we could take
Or you're talking about for the bridge.
for the bridge.
So, because we've only gone a certain distance with the design. We haven't got it.
Yeah, yeah, it was somewhere between 30 and 50%. It was enough for them to produce an estimate so that we could apply for the grant last year.
Okay,
But we know we have to do it. We know we have to, but.
Right.
So we need a detailed design tomorrow.
anyway, yeah.
I'm happy to make a couple that I have some context in civil engineering. Both on the engineering side and the contracting side, and I guess I'd be happy to make some phone calls just to get some preliminary feedback on like what might be a strategy for soliciting. I guess more competitive or efficient design, cost-effective design options. I mean, I hear the point, you know, we have only a handful of engineering design resources. But you can't bid out a job without a design, and maybe we need to be considering other alternatives for design before we go out to bid and start putting costs on construction costs, right? So it's a little bit of a chicken and the egg type situation, but if you'd like, I can make those phone calls and see if there's any particular insights and how we might pursue entertaining other design.
I'm happy to talk to our current engineer about that as well,
Yeah.
but
I think that would be appropriate. I mean, we absolutely should. I do think that, you know, both Chris Temple himself and then DeWolf in general, which is now part of Du Bois and King, you know, has a well-established pattern of trying to be, you know, pretty practical in their design recommendations. But to the spirit, if we don't know what we don't know, I'm happy to ask the question if you want to circle back and ask Chris if there's any other alternatives. Great.
So, I mean, want to acknowledge what a great job everyone did.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, I was pleasantly surprised at how quickly it
Yeah,
came around.
yeah, I'd like to say a long weekend coming up.
When, yeah, well, and you know, our neighbors at the pit, McCullough Crushing reopened that pit just for us.
Oh, really?
That day, that
Wow,
afternoon, they got right on it, crushed a
Wow.
bunch of gravel or stone and, yeah, it really worked out. What was I gonna say? I lost it.
well, and the neighbors who saw it.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that when Chris Temple lives in Woodbury and looked at it the morning after. And I can't remember if I communicated with this, so based on what he saw, it could be anything from fill in the space with stone to that's it for the bridge. And that's the sort of where we're at this point. So really on this last legs.
Do we need to think through contingencies around its failure? I mean, do we have a plan already, if there is such a thing?
You mean if we need to close the bridge?
Right,
You drive
We do
around.
not have a plan. Yeah, it's driving around.
well, I know, I mean, I recognize that if they're closed, it's closed, but,
All the way over.
I
Yeah.
mean, just in the event this were to happen.
Yeah,
We have
well-
the sort of, have we thought through,
In fact, that's the reality, right? That bridge is not available to our road crew and not
Right.
available to certain other.
Right, the school bus is gonna
Drivers.
reroute.
Yeah.
and,
right,
We
Yeah,
talked to them, that they're less concerned about it, actually, just based on their routes.
okay.
They'll use Beacon.
we'll FedEx and.
I haven't spoken with the fire
FedEx was
department.
really unhappy. I heard at the post office,
Yeah.
the UPS people were really, when
Yeah.
it closed.
Oh,
But do they fit the weight limit?
well, I would think so.
I don't know.
Maybe. The vans, maybe.
So, yeah,
And sorry, did you say you've already talked with the fire department?
I haven't spoken with them. I communicated the news today.
And this is gonna be highly controversial, but do we need to be making a contingency plan for improving Baton Road? Valentine?
You mean
As an
you're
alternative?
talking about improving the detour and on the bridge?
That's not,
It's a bunch of really little roads.
it's only two. I mean, Valentine is definitely a smaller one, but it's not even a quarter mile, it looks like, of that, and then maybe a half mile of Batten Road that would need to be improved and upgraded.
They would need to be widened.
What about temporary bridges?
What about what?
Temporary bridges. They put them in all the time. You know, they're building another bridge. They put a temporary bridge down.
That's
They
what,
say it's temporary. You could be there for 3 or 4 years,
that's
but
what Berlin has, it's quite, it seems like it'll be there for a long time.
That's what Berlin did after.
Yeah,
I learned a bit about this when I testified. There was, Royalton was testifying as well, because they have a very serious bridge problem in Royalton. And one of the asks was to fund more temporary bridges, because there's a long waiting list of communities that would really like it to have a temporary bridge. The state has an inventory, but it's not sufficient. So I don't know what, I guess I don't know when their sources of temporary bridges might be.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to move on if we could. But do appreciate everybody's quick response to that. I was super happy to see that everybody was able to get it passable at least. But thank you, Guy.
Yeah.
So the next step is a possible approval of the purchase of a new Fisher style 10-foot plow from the Highway Capital Fund. I think Kari had mentioned this in a previous meeting. Essentially, we have an undersized plow on.
I think it's really the shape of the plow.
Yeah.
It's a V shape that was available when we purchased the Ford 600. And so the snow, they can only do so much because the snow will pile up in the middle and come up and affects their visibility. So this is a one-way plow. This is considered a road plow versus a driveway plow. And for example, on County Road, it'll allow them to do it all in 4 passes versus 6 is what they're currently doing. And there's some different quotes in there, but the preferred one is the Fisher style 10-foot B one-way plow. That's available now, and it's pretty stout according to the crew, so that's what they're asking for. We didn't budget for this, so I would suggest that we take it from the equipment fund, and there's just shy of 200,000 in the middle.
7,427,
Yes,
all right.
and then we should be able to recoup a good portion of that by selling the driveway.
Okay.
Okay, great, yeah, I was about to tell you, you said that, yeah.
And then we could just put those proceeds back into the equipment fund
Great.
when we do that.
Okay,
Great,
yes.
Are there any other questions?
nope.
So what we're looking at is the element group 10-foot unit. All right,
it's the Fisher.
We're gonna move
Fisher style.
to approve the purchase of the Fisher style B. For $7,427.
Yes.
yeah. I was gonna add a joint motion to approve the sale of the other with the proceeds
Oh, yeah.
going
Yeah,
to
that'd
the capital reserve fund.
No moved.
Second.
Alright. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Kari, thanks for
Yeah, thank
putting
you.
that together.
Next up is, Marshfield. Okay, so our current thinking is to do some preliminary work on Marshfield this year and actually use a different grant. We would be repaving with the Class 2 highway grant, but we also have the grant and aid that's used for water quality, basically. And there's 3 culverts that ought to be replaced on Marshfield before we repave. And then ditching, and we've already got approval, we received approval today to do that work on Marshfield Road, so we'd like to go ahead with that. And then have Johnson Paving come in and patch those spots where they replace the culverts and then do a restorative work on that really bad stretch. If you recall, there's a 800-foot stretch on Marshfield that is down to gravel.
That is falling apart.
And so they would do that, and then their recommendation, and another company said this as well, is to let it sit for and be compacted for the winter. And then we could come back in the early part of the season next year. The grant runs until December 31st of 27. And then do the shim coat on all of it. I think that's a sound plan. The only problem is that it'll definitely put us over budget. I don't know what they will quote next year for asphalt. You can hazard a guess. We will be over budget at that point. But I think it's the right way to approach it.
And would it be in the next fiscal year then?
Yeah, well, depending on when we want to do it, the paving companies are generally ready to go earlier than the towns, is my understanding.
Okay.
So if we wanted them to start in May or June, they could potentially do that, but if we wanted to, go back to the voters and say, we need additional funds. We could do it that way, or we could plan to pay it out of fund balance. We could have that conversation in the budgeting season.
Yeah,
And the work that was gonna be done down below Tegan's off the side of the road there, when is that gonna be done before or after that?
I'm still waiting to hear back.
We haven't.
CVRPC is gonna look quiet on that one.
Okay.
I reached out again today. I'll let you know as soon as I hear,
So
but
that's, okay.
we were hoping that they would do that work before we repaved.
Right,
yes.
okay.
And that's in addition or different from the three culverts and then.
Yeah, that's separate. Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. So what I'm asking for here is approval to execute the quote that Johnson provided in the packet, which is $31,305. For the patch of the three culverts and then the restore to the 800 feet of section.
That'll be done this summer.
Yeah, August is when they can do it.
All right. How long will the road be closed, do you know?
A couple days.
Is this it looks like this is structured a little differently than the paving quotes, at least in verbiage, that we entertained before. This is a furnished labor and materials and completed for a total sum. Do we need to entertain any not to exceed language? Are we feeling confident that that's actually going to be the cost of the project without overages?
I've never worked with Johnson before. I don't have a great track record with repaving so far, but
So,
I can certainly emphasize that this is our.
Well, this is a proposal. The last one was provided as a quote, so I mean, I'm already feeling a little more confident in the language, at least, or at least asking somebody to stand by the language of how it's being
it does
structured.
have an estimate though, there. David, and everything. Will you submit specifications and estimate?
But down below, we hereby propose for furnished labor and materials
Right.
for the sum of,
Complete and
Yeah.
important,
yeah.
Okay, so,
I can certainly emphasize it. This is the price that we expect.
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
worth doing.
They're all also asking for half down.
that I think is pretty normal. Not out of the.
Holding your place in line.
Yeah. Goes all kinds of different ways, so that doesn't perturb me so much personally. If there's some consensus, can we entertain a motion to authorize to contract Johnson Paving for the paving of Marshfield Road as quoted or proposed for $31,305.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very, all right, do all that together.
Makes sense.
Next up is, signing the lease document. I think I got it in the folder this time. And again, this is, we've already gone through this, you've approved this purchase of this, and this is just the lease document. And they wanted to have it in place in this month. We won't draw on the funds until we need them.
So we aren't buying it, releasing it.
It's a lease-to-own situation. It's a municipal,
Okay.
So we end up owning it.
we end up owning it.
Like a dollar buy or something at the end or something like that. Okay.
It's pretty standard. It's how every purchase that I've been involved with in the town.
Okay, I wasn't aware.
And it's, somewhat favorable interest rates. I shopped it around.
Okay, great.
With that,
And I just need, Jordan needs to sign and then someone needs to attest. So,
Okay, so we don't even need a motion?
I think it'd be
I think we've
appropriate
already
to
approved it, right?
authorize, me to sign or co-sign, the lease servicing, agreement from NCL Government Capital.
So move.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
this next item is a more of an FYI, but it is pretty interesting. We were really surprised to learn last week that NEK Broadband, I guess with CV Fiber at the time, in 2022 had applied for right-of-way permits, use of right-of-way to lay fiber on the roadside in 6 different locations in town. And they received that permit, but they didn't execute it, so it's expired after 2 years.
David's here, maybe?
They'll need to reapply. Yeah, David's here, that's right, so he probably knows the context. So they asked if we could, essentially what they needed to do to follow through on this, and given everything that's going on and my vacation, we said we put them on the July 22nd agenda, and that would give us time to evaluate these sites, but want to make sure you're aware of it, because it's pretty significant, way beyond any use of right-of-way permit application I've seen.
Well, that's important context for me. Yeah,
It is for me too, and I wanna know how you find something like that. How does Dig say find that? Because normally with electric wire, there's something to find, but it's fiber. Is there gotta be some metal in there that they can detect?
It's a good question, I don't know the answer to
You
that.
know, yeah, that's.
David will, so.
They run, they dig a trench and they put in a conduit and they run the fiber in the conduit.
And David, is this the same thing they've been doing in other locations throughout Calais?
Correct. I mean, the major one, I think they may have done one other project in Calais, which was they ran the fiber from Worcester to Calais underground. It required the road crew to make sure it was done right.
Yeah.
And I mean, the other one was right there in Kent's Corner, where there's 2 culverts were being dealt with, and they had to run the fiber independent of the culverts. Some of these turn into some pretty interesting projects for the town to have to review. And I do advise the town to review them carefully when they come in. I'm not sure what 6 permits were. Haven't been involved with all 6. I don't remember them. I made the map for every one of them, but now I'd have to go back and look at where they were. And there may be more coming in the next 2 years, actually, to tell you the truth. Because we're trying to finish the build out in Calais.
There's almost 10,000 feet underground just in this application right here.
Yeah.
Did you say which road?
Well, in total,
He's just adding them up.
just very quickly, I mean,
Yeah, well, one of them is Route 14 and going from Lightning Ridge to the village, and it's in conjunction with Green Mountain Power. Green Mountain Power is putting that whole stretch of Route 14 underground, and CV Fiber will be putting in a conduit with the electric conduit.
Wow.
I don't see that one on here.
That's a state publication.
So this is just being, we're looking at just kind of this is a renewed request or
Correct.
just kind of a reiteration of what was previously submitted.
Yep.
And
And approved and then expired.
and it approved and then expired. And not to accuse anybody of not doing their due diligence, but it did expire and the world is always changing. David, would it be
we
inappropriate
ran out of money.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, given the scope of the project, would it be inappropriate to ask somebody to come and speak to these,
since it's a new select board, yeah.
I mean, I think the questions about how do we find it, how do we document it?
What kind of notice are we gonna have when it starts? Get somebody to look at it?
I mean, there was a map for each segment that was submitted to get the permit. I don't have that material. You guys should have that material someplace.
Yeah, we do.
We're looking at it, and you know, I think that the representations on those maps are pretty detailed, but just technically better understanding how the work is going to be performed, why in these segments, and I don't know. I guess one of my questions is. Well, originally I was looking at one, I thought there was going to be a need to bury some in Duger Brook in a segment where I think that they just did some burying of electrical primary like last year. And so, you know, even if I'm not using that one as an example, but like if this is an area, if these are areas where WEC might be wanting to come in later and also bury primary, I don't know, it just seems like there's kind of a need to be consistent about the techniques that are being used and how they're being marked or documented.
And typically these projects were where there is no telephone poles. And so they had to go underground. But I have to go back and revisit this. I only noticed that this was on your agenda at the last minute. So I'm sorry about not having more preparation and not having our operations manager present this information.
Well, this is a heads up, correct?
Yeah.
We are gonna take it up again, David, in a future meeting.
Okay.
Am I?
Yeah, we invite, I don't know if they responded, we invited July 22nd to
Okay, great.
entertain this action.
27, right?
Okay, great.
7th,
I believe so.
the second meeting in July.
The second meeting in July.
All righty. Thanks.
Well, thanks, David. Thanks for joining the conversation and help coordinating.
Since I am on the phone with you, I should give you the update. The plan is to finish all of Calais in the next 2 years. And I mean, 70% of the town, more than 70% of the town is done now. And the reason that this part of town that is getting done already has cable. So it's sort of going to be an interesting competition between NEKCV and Comcast as to whether people are unhappy with Comcast or not. But we have money to do this now. Well, I don't know if the contract's been signed, but this is the Biden's infrastructure money that's finally getting allocated And NEKCV got $63 million to finish all the unserved. And the justification for going down 14 is to get the stragglers that Comcast never went to. So we actually are getting money to get to them, which means overbuilding Comcast. As crazy as that sounds. Anyway,
Well, thank you. Thanks for the update, Dave.
yep. Keep up the good work, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there's one more bullet about wild chervil roadside management.
Yeah, we talked about Tribble a bit. Yeah, basically I just want to define the best practice and advise residents, and if there are resources we can provide to help, I'd like to do that, but just a more organized approach.
Approach for residents, but
Yeah.
also for our own practices, like
Yeah.
timing of the mowing.
Yeah, we had really start this year, including with the application.
I'd like to see that a May 1st deadline for applications.
Yeah,
So that the applications have to be in by then, because they should be mowing before the first part of June.
yeah.
First of all,
Instead of being coming in this late, it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
right?
and we should also specify what we expect them to do, not just an application that we're not gonna mow, but what we expect of them to do as well, you know?
Yeah, well, it does say in the application that they have to maintain them.
But we don't necessarily,
It's,
a little more
it's a
detail
question
about
of
it.
checking, monitoring.
Well, I think this play devil's advocate a little bit here. This kind of gets back to also about like the scheduling of the work for the road crew and the consistency in that. And, while I'm, hesitant to spin up policies and rules and that sort of thing, I think there needs to be a balance between managing expectations. There's a deadline to submit an application, which I don't necessarily agree with or disagree with, but you could have had people who were waiting around to see when the road crew was going to do it, because that is their duty, right, in part. And so I think if we're going to have a deadline for applications for people to submit applications to self-perform, then I also think we need to kind of specify our own deadline and what the expectation is for when we're gonna commence the work ourselves as well. And I don't think that that's unreasonable. And this kind of gets back to kind of a broader conversation for me about work management, I think, and scheduling, because there are these perennial scopes of work that have to be done, like the grading and the roadside mowing, they're largely going to be the same scopes of work year to year. While the grading is a little bit more variable relative to weather conditions and road conditions. Do we need to be taking a closer look at like what our hourly allocations are for all of these different tasks and making a decision on either contracting, funding a position, or balancing what we think is reasonable for the road crew to self-perform. Like, this ties into the conversation for me about the Marshfield Road work. I understand that from the grant administration side ends up being a benefit to the town because we can kind of recoup some more monies, but it's also going to come at the expense of other work not getting performed. And
I think you end up with like just the realities of the disruptions that happen, good planning.
Yeah.
But, we have the Ken Hill Road disruption. We have, there's any Moscow, there's any number of things that happen.
July 10th, 3 years in a row.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So it
Definitely.
kind of pushes the. I think what's not getting said is that like, there's not I think there's snow events that butt right up against.
Right. Yeah, we didn't really have
Some of
spring
this.
this year.
There's, you know, there's a
Definitely.
squeeze there, and I don't, I mean, during public comment, or during some of the comments, we didn't necessarily address that, but it's like. That's part of the reality, is that there's a real, you know. There's a time constraint and a narrow window there. And there's no, in my mind, I mean, my little microclimate and, you know, my little neck of the woods is different than all these other communities. So, I mean, you know, roadside, so it is quite a challenge, I think, for the crew. To really do this well.
And that might be an argument for thinking, talking more about subbing out that particular
Exactly.
scope of work. You know, we might get a lot
Yeah.
fewer applications if over the next 5 years, we always do our mowing. You know, the first mow before any of the chervil goes to seed.
Or if we know where the chervil is and we do those roads first,
Yep.
wash the mower and then come back and, you know.
Yeah.
I get really squeamish about like just the mowing and the washing and the transporting from different area. Just because I think there's a lot of hidden costs and labor time and management time, relative to that. And while, you know, I think what is, you know, a practical sentiment to just perform the work at a time when it's best to do it. I just think that realistically, it requires, it's gonna require more than that, and it's more of a problem than that, and it's not unique to Calais, and
Right.
and but I do think to a certain extent, then, you know, there's, yeah, I think we kind of look at, you can weigh in here too, Bill, for sure, relative to your experience, but like we treat all of the roadside mowing as if it's the same. And, you know, I will admit that I came into this, as this year has kind of progressed, not just in Calais, but everywhere else. I'm like, when is anybody gonna get out and start mowing the lawn? Like, the heavier and thicker stuff gets, the fewer things that you can see and the more things you're gonna hit. And like, and the harder that is on equipment, et cetera, it's just like this compounding layer of impacts. And so like, it'd be interesting to have a conversation with John and Kari and anybody else in the road crew who wants to like participate in it, but like, what is realistic? Like, do we need to be talking about like identifying what the grassy segments are? Are we going to mow that? Like, I'll admit that if we're talking about Robinson Cemetery Road, like there are pieces of vegetation that would be a shame to see cut too early in the season because of their flowering, et cetera, et cetera. But you know, I do think, and I think we're gonna run into that literally everywhere. Like people are gonna feel like their roads that they have an interest in seeing maintained in a particular way. And I think that then opens the door for, I think, a genuine conversation with property owners taking a more active role in kind of managing their segments and balancing that with what the town's obligations are. But like, I don't think personally, like we've demonstrated a great way of managing that conversation as a community, right? But I do think it starts by saying like, what is our expectation of the road crew? What does the road crew think is realistic for getting in early enough? And how do we block out enough time in their schedule to make sure that it's getting done? Who's responsible for it? Right?
I just would think this is already. You know, we've been considered, but, you know, or stated, but it's that. When we're putting the attention on the crew, I think we have to put equal attention on. How we can support education in the community. And do that, you know, there are entire fields that are full of, well, chervil right now, so. How would our road crew working and being very surgical about all this impact the fact that there's fields? So you know,
Yeah.
it just feels, like.
That's something that the Lakes and Streams Committee is very focused on.
Right, and it's not just chervil.
No, of course not,
Right,
but,
like-
but that happens to be the one of the moment,
Not-
even it's so visible at the moment.
Well, but not me, it's.
But we have a big change in that. People don't mow their fields anymore. Used to mow them twice, 2 or 3 times a year for hay. That doesn't happen. They're all just maturing into other things. And if you don't mow chervil a lot, well, if you mow it enough, it'll go away.
Mhm.
But you have to keep mowing. But if you don't mow, it's gonna, just doing the roadside isn't gonna help. you
Right.
know?
Right.
It's everywhere.
Right.
But anyway.
So,
So you had said, Conservation Commission at one point as a possible partner,
Yeah, I
think
reached out to Neil,
absolutely.
they said that they were interested in working on that, so.
so I
Yeah.
think that, I mean, we need help. We need help with the community, educating the community and doing it with, science-based approach. I really appreciated
Yep.
the, fact sheet that you added
Yeah,
to the folder.
it's definitely resources.
Yeah.
But throwing in the road is not what we wanna have happen. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to define that.
Yeah, right.
You see that from time to time in different places, but.
what's the best way to move forward with this conversation, I think, cause I think I think getting the input of the road crew and the Conservation Commission makes sense. I mean, it could be as simple as tasking the Conservation Commission to do kind of a preliminary draft, so to speak, of like recommendations for identification of various invasives, knowing the chervil is one of them, and doing it within the context of roadside mowing. And I guess saying specifically, like, we're looking for very specific direction and best practices, right? And then if they produce an output that we can then share with the road crew, then that is maybe something that's more appropriate for us to have conversation within the forum of a select board meeting, or agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's only been a couple of weeks since, spoke with Neil, but, give him a chance to meet it once or twice and then have him in, I think, if they're ready to talk to us.
Okay.
Also, great. Dispersal. So this focus on. And there's just
Yeah.
a lot of focus on the road crew on that work, and I appreciate it, but I really want, like, I want the Conservation Commission to recognize that we're saying it's an issue across the town,
So, yeah,
and obviously, it's an issue across the state, it's not just a
definitely.
roadside issue. But, like, it just feels like we can't fully control it as a town road, at all.
That's part of it.
Exactly.
So we do want recommendations from the Conservation Commission, both on what the road crew might do and what everyone else in town, property owner,
What they might recommend for
what people do, what are
some
the
kind of,
effects.
yeah,
I mean, the Lakes and Streams Committee just,
yeah, they did their thing, and
and they're working with DBM, there's things we can do.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh my
yep.
gosh, okay.
So I'd like to move on to policy. Policy review, we have, the adoption of the delinquent tax, policy that, Kari has been working on and has now been reviewed by the attorney. I
Yeah,
believe.
that's right.
So,
They need little changes.
Yeah, more editorial, nothing, subs- so, and it's based on the LCT model policies.
And so what we have it before us is the final after the.
Yes.
Great. We talked about it last time.
Yeah, I don't have
I
any
move
further
to
questions.
approve.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town website. Gonna pivot to Meadow on this one.
Yeah. Yeah, so where we last left it, I gave you the report in the last meeting about just like, the cost benefit of moving to a new host and just like some of the questions that were still outstanding, one of which was, I was in conversation with RV Tech about just like hosting our files just in the SharePoint, and they spent some time talking about it. Ruben informed Kanan, who's been my major point person, that just based on the scope and the use of the information, the fact that it's public information, they're fine with us just using SharePoint as like a repository. But what they'd like to do is create an account specifically for the website, kind of like how we have a SharePoint account. They'll just create one that is not attached to anybody else's
That
account.
makes sense.
And that'll just be kind of cut off from the back end. So we'll create that account and we'll have a very clear chain of what goes in and out of that. The question about retention, we can kind of have at another time, but so really, we're in a position where we have between now and the end of December to make a move, and whenever you want us to do that, we can go ahead and do that. And I don't really know what the next steps are specifically about if we need to come up with a specific price quote about moving to a new host. But that was pretty much the major outstanding question, and that RV Tech is on board feels pretty nice to have that support tech wise. But yeah, I'm ready to move forward if that feels comfortable, whenever you all are, and if there are any other questions or anything, I'm happy to deal with it.
You know, in terms of timing, we talked about it already, that maybe August, depending on what the staff identifies as the best timeframe, is still, I think, fine. And I think the point about creating a separate SharePoint site and load and having that be dedicated, I think is excellent advice, and that satisfies sort of the concerns I was expressing around this before. So I'm very happy about it.
Sounds great, and to the public, it'll just be, not a hard transition, they'll just see a new improved website.
Yeah, I mean, there will be a transition period. I would say that the website itself will appear just as a maintenance page for probably the scope of about 8 hours. I'm thinking it'll probably take me about 8 hours of work to just install all the backend stuff, build the templates, and then start migrating the information. I can mitigate that a little bit by, if I have time between now and whenever we make the implemented move, by just building that repository of documents in the SharePoint in the background. So to the public, let's imagine I was a user of the website and I visited the website 1 minute after I started working on it. I would go to the website and I would only see a maintenance page. I'd plan on putting on the maintenance page something that's just like, this is how you can contact us. Here's an email address. Here's the phone number of the town office. And we're working on the website right now. It'll be back tomorrow. And then if that user came back the next day, they would click on the same link to the website and they would see basically what you're seeing in the mock-up that I created.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty smooth transition from the user side of things, but the website itself, our domain will actually be pointing to a new host. And all that will be new.
Is there sorry, did we already talk about what day of the week it makes the most sense to do that?
I had suggested that it probably makes sense for me to do that work on a Friday.
On a Friday, yeah. Nice.
Yeah. I could do the work on a Friday and then kind of chip in any extra little bit of addition type of work that I would need to do the following day on a Saturday or something like that. And I had planned on just submitting my hours the same way that I do, and but I don't anticipate it requiring more than that.
Yeah.
And I built the mock-up from scratch, a day and a half, so.
Well.
This one does.
As-
We very much appreciate that.
Well, kind of to that end a little bit. I mean, I think that there's kind of general consensus that this is a really valuable step forward. and good work to be done. And I personally think that it makes sense to, I guess, authorize or empower you to use your discretion in starting to apply or commit some of your time or an extra bit of your time to doing some of that advanced legwork. So maybe it's not so much of a pile of work at kind of the designated time. I think that like as a resource, the website is significant enough that it warrants like that kind of prioritization. Especially when it can be done efficiently with somebody who knows what they're doing. So, I would hate to have you, put off anything that you feel like you can kind of chip away at. And if all you need to hear from us is that it makes good sense for you to prioritize that, then I think that that's probably something we can get a lot of head nods around. So.
I will also add, just like as a part of this whole process, the goal here is not to isolate the website at me, but to create a
Yeah.
system that more people can have access to.
Yes,
Definitely.
Especially because of the current web host being so isolating about like making any micro changes.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I totally agree.
But like that being said, I'm gonna try to chip away with whatever time in the office I do have, but because my position is part-time, like this will be me adding on like 8 to 12 hours of my normal stuff when that transition happens, if that feels okay.
Mhm. I think it does. Great. Well, thank you.
And then thank you for flagging that the document retention issue is like something we need to address separately and later.
Yeah, we had a little bit more a dialogue about this during the agenda planning meeting, and I think it is an important conversation we had. I do think that we could probably table any lengthy conversation tonight. Let's put it on a future agenda. I think there's some really important points of feedback there that we need to continue to discuss. And we'll try to do that and work through that dialogue, in snippets in parallel with Meadows' work on the website, I think. So I'd like to just table that for now and move on to the administrative actions.
Sorry, am I approved moving forward? Like, do we need to do an action there, or have we already approved that?
Good question.
Let me see him this time. No,
I guess if we.
Yeah.
We could make a motion to authorize Meadow to continue applying hours towards the website development and migration. If that seems relatively concise enough and broad enough to let Meadow get or allow Meadow to continue on their work.
I'm happy to do that.
Just want to make sure I'm not stepping ahead.
No. I mean, it's.
Sense of the select board agenda that Meadow is authorized to go ahead and move forward with the transition.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
The next item up for an administrative item. So we've got the approval of the June 8th select board meeting minutes, which were posted to the shared drive and prepared by Meadow. Everybody have an opportunity to review those. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as prepared?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Meadow.
Thank you, Meadow. This fly is ridiculous.
I know, it's just.
Going around to
Just the
everybody.
one.
It's just one fly. Vote to approve board orders and to sign. Those are also prepared and posted to the shared drive by Kari. Hopefully everyone's had an opportunity to review those. So are there any questions or commentary on the board orders? not, can I get a motion to approve and sign the board orders as posted to the shared drive?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, thank you. So next is the authorized early July payments. Again, this is just kind of accommodate some payment approvals that Harry will make prior to going on vacation, but also because we're going to have a extended break before our next meeting. So this is kind of a customary thing that we do to authorize Harry to make payments early that fall within the approved budget.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to add the Johnson paving down payment to that, and then also, I forgot to include this, but we wanna buy some postage using what's within the budget at the end of the year, so $1,000, $1,092 is what we've asked the post office to prepare, so like approval for that as well, please.
Okay.
Was everybody well with those additions to the motion? Can I get a motion to authorize Harry to make those advance payments? For July? All in favor? Aye. Approve and sign the FY 2027 Woodbury Fire Department contract, which is, I believe, a reflection of what was approved by the voters during town meeting.
Yeah, the budget numbers match, and then there's no other changes to
And
the
contract is the same.
same, as far as I can tell, it's,
Very, very forward.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
Can you say, well, if someone from Calais calls 911, who comes? Is this request location?
do we know?
He's not clear, but like, what's the principle that works? Is it just the 911 operator that picks who they're sending or who's available?
That's a good question, I don't know that much about how that works.
Curious.
I assume it's got to do with location in town, who's closer.
Location and availability, I think with the conversations that have been kind of ongoing with the East Montpelier Emergency Services, it seems like there's a fair amount of coordination that is happening. When the call goes out, there are representatives of each saying, chiming in, saying who's closest, who's available, who might be on another call. And short of that, both parties respond, but I think payment is really only paid to whoever ends up doing any kind of carrying or the providing of service. Does raise kind of an interesting question, I guess, that Plainfield has like a rapid response, or that is kind of an unofficial capacity, but a group of individuals who make themselves available to respond to things.
I think Marshfield has a similar
Yeah.
thing. But we don't.
I think it'd be hard to entertain something like that without having a more detailed conversation about like what regular response.
We have a fire department. And
Yeah.
that's what the Plainfield and Marshfield Fire Department is doing, is, it's got a little team. Fast team.
Well, anyway, with that, can I get a motion to authorize me to sign the FY 2027 Woodbury Fire Department contract? All in favor? Aye. Oh, boy, dogs ones.
Well, greatly reduced from the last time you saw this.
Yes, but 20 is 20 still usual, or is that, but
typical based on what I've seen from past warrants. Also,
Why are they?
one of the, or two of the dogs on the list, so I guess, have paid, but the licenses haven't been processed because I'm still waiting for updated rabies certification. And two of the other dogs on the list, the person, I was able to reach the person and they committed to paying verbally over the phone, but I haven't seen payment yet.
I see.
Then the rest of the people on that list, I have not been able to get in touch with.
Okay. Oh, they have,
Sorry.
I've phoned multiple times and I've sent emails.
Okay.
To everybody on that list except for Deb Stillwell, who I have tried to track down and I spoke to on the phone once because she had called in. And she verbally said, I will get in there to pay that, but I haven't seen payment yet.
And remind me what the consequences are of not having done this?
Well, it's $100 fine is what our
Right.
officer can issue, but also our animal control officer is charged with the power to impound all of these dogs.
Right,
which is
I don't think
what
that's,
we.
which is not our goal.
yeah,
Not at all.
that's a lot. So that would be a question for Buffy, since I'm new to this.
I think this gives her a little more leverage,
Yeah.
you know.
It gives her, and this is what we routinely do,
Yeah, this is an annual.
we give her
exercise.
this, hero fail not
Yeah,
document.
that's, that language comes directly from the state.
I know,
Yeah.
I know, I could tell.
Yeah.
And then Buffy is able to persuade people a little more effectively.
And has Buffy been coordinated with, about kind of what the volume is here, or does she?
Yeah, I mentioned closing in on this.
Okay.
She's aware.
Okay.
Is there any, do we track sort of repeat situations like year on year?
Good question.
I mean,
Last
she
year,
has-
we were very successful. We cleared the
Yeah.
list last year,
Yeah,
so.
okay. Anyway,
With this process.
Yes,
Usually
yeah.
once this process happens,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so Buffy will probably recommend me.
We can ask her for a report on that.
And we have to sign them each individually. I remember doing this last year.
Signing each one.
Don't we?
No, there's one. There's one.
All right. Okay, well, can I get a motion to sign the dog warrant and
Is it just approved the dog warrant or?
sign?
Okay.
Approve and sign.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Now I'm lost. Thinking about dogs, journal entries, yep, posted to the shared drive. Again, these are adjustments that Harry has needed to make to journal entries. Does anybody have any questions about these?
I don't, but I'd like to come in sometime for maybe half an hour and just sit with you so I
Sure.
understand them a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fairly cryptic, right?
Yeah, I understand some of them, but
Can I get a motion to, accept the general journal entries?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
By the way, that reminds me, you asked last fall if there could be a training for select boards about oversight, financial oversight.
Mhm.
And VLCT's financial person had put something together, and then I just heard back from her today that they ended up putting that into a new select board orientation this year. So she provided a recording of what she presented, so I'll share that with you.
Oh, great.
That'll be great.
Watch that at your convenience.
And we just need to sign the procurement policy, so I don't, we've already approved that, right? So.
Yeah, that was last time. Yeah.
Just circulate that for signature. And that will bring us to reports. And we have the housing committee on for reports, but we haven't formed that, and there's been some kind of dialogue around continuing to workshop the list of potential appointees a little bit. And I think that's probably a fair representation of the status of that, so probably can table getting into too much detail on that, other than we're just kind of continuing to try.
Open to any suggestions people have to round out that group, especially for
The,
women,
yeah,
younger folks.
the list you included, they've all agreed to.
We have 4 people that have agreed, yeah.
So we'll keep coordinating on that. East Montpelier Fire Department.
We had a successful joint meeting of the representatives of the select board, East Montpelier Select Board, myself and the EMFD. And there's efforts being made to identify criteria for the planned review of performance.
Is there
Anything else
Any-
you have to go into?
Gotcha. Fair enough. Well, thank you. It's possible, at least here, that it was a productive meeting.
Yeah.
That's great. View appraisal update and property tax messaging. Great.
So things are moving along nicely. The grand list has been lodged by the listers. We have no reappraisal appeals.
Yeah.
This is remarkable. So all we're waiting for is the state education tax rates. And as soon as those are posted, I'll get to work. If they're ready before I leave on vacation, I will prepare a tax rate recommendation for the July 14th meeting. If not, I'll put that second meeting in July. And so the other part of this is we think it'd be worthwhile to send out a postcard this year, informing people of the general timeline, because there's always questions. We get into this time of year, we start getting inquiries, but also we have a couple new things this year that we want to get out there early and often. One would be the postmarks not being accepted, and the other one was that property tax credit lag issue. $800 for a postcard to every household, probably worth the investment, we're thinking. So there's some draft text in there, there's the, how to communicate that message.
It's
I already read it.
under,
Is it in admin?
it's,
No,
it's actually under 6 reports.
thank you.
While everyone's pulling data, but I think the language is good, and we also had some conversation about this during the agenda planning, and I appreciate Kari had already kind of preemptively got some prices on printing and the cost of circulating, and frankly, my position is that $800 relative to the headache and everything else that we could potentially encounter with people being caught off guard, and the chance of increasing the probability of more people going through the abatement process, having been caught off guard by something like that. I think that's reasonable money to spend in advance to try to mitigate some of that, potential headache, and I think it's a good value to the taxpayers as well for getting some advance warning about that.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions about the?
I would just add to the postcard, the URL, or an approximate URL, how to get to the town website.
Oh,
That's all.
sure, yep. More information at,
Yeah.
Yeah, it says town website, but it doesn't give a URL or anything.
oh, okay,
Somebody may not know that, that's all.
gotcha.
Where did we land on the border that goes around the outside of it that says blame the state?
Yeah.
Just like a big
Not our
red with not our fault, big like red with
We're
white.
still
letters.
workshopping that.
Okay. Those are my only notes.
Visible on black light.
If the, is there an opportunity to put anything on the other side, on the reverse?
I don't know.
And just, sometimes you could use that to say sort of important property tax information or something like that.
Like a headline.
Just like, yeah, headline on the reverse,
Okay.
if there's a space available.
It seems spammy. It starts to sound like something that's gonna scam.
Oh dear.
Information.
But don't make it sound like a scam.
Great.
There's a lot of words. Is all I would
Too many
say.
words.
I agree. I didn't put any of those words in. What are you trying to say?
I'm sorry.
How dare you?
Love it.
So truncated is another name.
Make it less
Any way to
convenient, apparently is
fewer
what Barbara's
words,
trying to
that's
say.
all.
Well, I could have some words. I could suggest some places to go.
Go for it.
Well, I think we could just say, I love greetings from the Calais town office. I would like to make it a little breathy and friendly, and I would just say, we're mailing tax bills out the first week of August.
Okay.
Or will be mailing.
And they'll be due these 2 dates.
And they'll be due.
Yeah.
Yeah. For more information, see the town website. I kind of don't like calling out that we're putting copies of everybody's tax bills on the website, but you could put the URL or more. I just see for more information, see the town's website. Because the real important information is
Yeah.
down here in the second.
Yeah.
The two bullets are both important.
Yeah.
So friendly reminder.
Okay.
Well, I think it is new, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
These things-
goes to a town meeting,
No,
all payments must be received by the treasurer.
at the town office yes, I was gonna make that substitute correctly.
What's that?
So I think if we just flip them, so as voted at town meeting, all payments must be received by the treasurer at the town office by 4:00 PM on the due date.
Yeah.
We will no longer accept.
Got it.
We no longer, yeah.
We no longer. Yeah.
Good.
And then. Not our fault, not our fault, not our fault.
What's the gist?
Yeah, I think you probably just start with, we have been informed that comes right out of the gates. This is not our system.
Skip
Can we
the,
say the state of Vermont?
Or
Have
the
been-
state,
the
did you
state-
say the state?
The state has informed us, something?
Which is. The state property tax credits. The state. Issues property tax credits and their system is delayed by a year or something. It's not our thing.
so lose the first sentence of about.
I think,
Rephrase that.
and I think that, I like the we have been informed, so I think you can probably leave that, and then, we have been informed the state will
The state of Florida.
issue 2026 state property tax credits
The state informed us that they will
that they will be.
base the 2026 property tax credit on 0.55 free appraised value.
Got it. Okay,
And then
Yeah,
you
it's
can,
not like that.
It-
That's
this-
that's really clear.
you can probably, shorten that sentence, but, or, instead of the comma after values, period, and say this means there will effectively be.
Yeah, you
1
can
year
take out
reduction.
that phrase, yeah.
And I love the last sentence, it's a state level decision, so sorry. Stakes.
great, that's helpful, thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
That's the,
that's a really smart idea.
that's the first time I've ever done wordsmithing and, coordinating.
And, you know, it says-
I've been happy with it.
Yeah, right. Okay, do we have to do anything with respect to that? That's just been informed.
Yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and we'll approve the warrant.
All right.
Financial report, all right?
Yeah, so we're getting very close to the end of the fiscal year. Based on this budget report, I think we're gonna be very close to having the general government surplus match the highway department deficit. We'll have basically a break even year, I think we'll end up. That, and that doesn't include the county road repaving where there was a decision to use fund balance. So I think we'll be in good shape, actually. Considering that, we did have a general fund balance of 566,000 at the end of May, so that's where we stand. And yeah, that's it. Any questions?
No, Roman.
Yeah, how are we paying for Moscow Award?
Yeah.
But that's good, thank you.
Both,
Oh,
both and trolls.
Take care.
Town clerk.
So you get on vacation.
Citizens on vacation,
Yep.
excellent.
we just received our primary election ballots today. And I started prepping absentee ballots, getting ready to send those out. And yeah, you see the dog warrant list, where we're at there. I've been doing more planning for thinking about archive projects in the vault. So Tegan and I are still in discussion about some directions we could go there. And there's been a couple of marriage certificates that I've processed, and I'm getting more familiar with those systems. So that's my assistant town clerk report.
Do you have the IBM Selectric that the marriage licenses used to be paired on?
The IBM Selectric.
Does anyone know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Come on, now. Back in the day.
I now realize that I was married in Calais and don't know anything about where my marriage certificate is.
Well, I can get you a copy in the office for $10.
Perfect.
That's fine.
Go towards the bridge.
I don't need to. Yeah. Thank you, Beto. And Kari, any other town administration?
Yeah, I wanted to share three things. One is, I mentioned the grant and aid, we are approved to move forward on that. So that's Marshfield Road and Son of Luce is where we're gonna be working. We're also approved for a Better Roads grant to improve a section of Pekin Brook. Also sort of sediment control. And then we've got the paving grant, but we did not receive the structures grant for the Stillbrook Bridge. I just asked about it today and they said, oh yeah, sorry, you didn't get that one. So we can apply again in the future, but Then I wanted to mention I'll be on vacation July 1st through 14th out west, so I should be reachable most of the time, but I do have a 3-day camping trip. John is also away the 4th through the 6th, and Toby is gonna be around. He's the assistant road commissioner, so if a decision needs to be made that the road crew needs help with, he's on call for that. And then the third thing I wanted to say is that we have a road crew member who's, I just learned of this today, that he's preparing for paternity leave. He asked about paternity leave. He can of course have the time. He's wondering about getting paid, and he wanted to ask specifically, can he utilize sick time? And I reviewed, the contract is silent about how sick time is used. The personnel policy has 3 different categories for how, and I don't believe it applies to this situation. So he's asking, could there be some consideration for him in his case?
How long does it go?
He wasn't specific. My impression is any amount of time would be appreciated. And his alternatives would be to use vacation leave or unpaid leave. Based on how I read our documents.
Do we have no parental leave policy,
We do not.
paternity, anything?
We do
And
not.
it's not in the contract.
It's not in the contract. I didn't see.
Okay, well.
Yeah, I know. Well, that was an omission.
Okay.
And
Well, expending vacation time is usually a factor. I mean, you have a lot of experience with this, I'm guessing.
I do.
So what's your recommendation, friend?
To me, you agree to a contract and you go with that.
Yeah,
And as soon as you start making exceptions,
right.
Yeah,
and I would flag this for the next contract.
Yes. I think so.
Yeah.
Is tough message, but
Yep.
I think it's good.
I agree.
I don't know, I mean, it's. Many of us have been there and it'd be really nice, it's nice to have the time off and,
That's what vacation time is
yeah.
for me. I mean, yeah, I'd like to have it too.
So,
I think you have your answer.
okay. Thanks.
Awesome. Definitely flag for future.
Got it on.
When is the leave needed?
Approximately September.
Thanks. Any other updates? Otherwise, I think I'd circle back to, I'd like to circle back to before we jump into executive session, the emergency management director, update. And part of that, is that, emergency management committee had a meeting last Thursday. And Kari Meadow and I attended. We weren't formally on the agenda, and unfortunately, James was not able to be present. But we did have a conversation with the other committee members who were present, including Jake Aho and Nick Emlin, who has previously served in that role, about what kind of the duties and the obligations are of that role, kind of what the workload is understood to be for the committee, and have some dialogue around the potential for splitting some of the things that have historically all fallen onto the emergency management director, which I think makes it a pretty significant ask for new folks to step into that role and gain experience. I don't know that we decided on anything in particular, but I would say that I think it's fair to characterize it as a pretty productive conversation, and folks definitely, expressed an appreciation for the concern and the consideration that was being put into that and the thought around, you know, how can that committee be structured so that it doesn't, so that you kind of peel some of those things apart. And I think, unfortunately, we couldn't get James's direct input on that. I think that would have been valuable, and I think that's still worth pursuing. But it didn't sound like there was a formal need for the emergency management director to serve as the chair of that committee, so.
Nick specifically offered he would continue to facilitate the meetings.
Yeah.
My take on it was, I was surprised that the formal responsibilities of the management director are more narrow than I understood.
Way narrower.
And there are lots of helpers. There are people willing to help, but
Okay.
the crux is who is going to step up and say, I will take the responsibility when a crisis hits.
The call, yeah, I'll take the call.
And clearly we don't, none of the folks in that group want that role. And I see the logic of a staff person filling that role because of the nexus to other town functions. But I also, just this experience with the bridge made me feel like that it would be not wise for me to fulfill that role at this time.
Right.
That was clear to me.
Okay.
I would do it, but I don't think that's the best arrangement.
I just wanna also add, like I've been trying to reach out to James, it's obviously been a really difficult week, couple of weeks. But James did get back to me today and answered at least some of the questions that I had asked. I'm just gonna share that with you here.
Sure.
He said during a large emergency, the committee and the director would be the liaison together between local level services such as emergency services and road crew to the state Emergency Operations Center, SEOC, to relay situational updates and place supply and personnel needs through the state's ticketing system.
Yeah.
The director is the primary person responsible for deciding if a shelter or an emergency operations center needs to be opened. The director does not have to be the chair of the committee from my understanding, but historically it has been because it makes the most sense. And the same goes for being the town's representative for the Regional Emergency Management Committee. The regional committee meets quarterly, virtually or in person in Montpelier to go over what everyone is working on and what different training and events are occurring people should be aware of. And that's often where guest speakers at the meeting provide more information about specific topics. And James has said that he'd be willing to meet sometime this week and answer any more questions. But that's kind of where that conversation left off.
Okay.
Some thoughts that I had during that dialogue, well, one, just acknowledging that, like, I think having gone through or been on the select board when we were going through the flooding situations and the amount of decisions that have to be made there and the people who are having a conversation, I think there is a point to that Kari made, like that there is like this nexus of efficiency in bringing that kind of point person more into the fold of either town staff or the select board member who is already inherently going to be involved in making those decisions. The chair by default act as that person in the absence of one. Which will just table any commentary on that, but I do think that like as the chair of the select board, but then also as a select board member, the emergency management plans, the LEMPs, those like I feel like there's this there's a huge scope of information that is prepared for us, but not necessarily with us, but we're accountable for it. And there is something to, I think, having a more active participation in like the compiling of that information and better understanding how all of that stuff interplays. There was a kind of an immediate recommendation during the emergency management committee meeting that like they usually do like some sort of table exercise, and like at a minimum, I think that it would be beneficial for certain members of the select board maybe to participate in that and to schedule it, and maybe that helps kind of build some kind of line of sight into what that looks like. But I agree with with Kari, is his current assessment, and I think this is probably shared with the rest of the board, that this would not be right now with the way that Kari currently is serving as the town administrator and the road commissioner, and so deeply integrated into the decision-making tree of the road crew, it would make sense for him to serve in that particular capacity, because that's too many overlapping circles, and so there should be some separation there. I don't know where this kind of leaves us, other than it seems like Meadow really likes learning new things.
Well, I was thinking to Kurt earlier that I would be interested in like doing that, but I have to believe that there's somebody more qualified than me right now. Like I just being new here, I wanna like learn more and, you know, shadow more things. And also, you know, like I also will have a newborn in November, at some point, so. You know, like I wanna have my priorities lined up. And
Definitely.
yeah, so I think if I were to circle back around to this conversation next year, would feel a lot more capable and willing to step into that role, but.
Well, I think it's important to respond to if James is feeling like he has some time to get together this week. I can likely find some time to participate in a conversation this week.
To find out more from James.
To find out more from James, I
You-
mean,
you
at a
still
minimum.
Have that conversation with him?
No.
Yeah,
We
okay.
only
Okay.
exchanged emails,
Yeah.
and have failed to kind of have a broader conversation about it, but, the other members of the emergency management committee have like binders that are dated, I think he has one, but I think it would be good to just like this week, get together with him and kind of treat it as a transition of any information that he currently has to myself or the office, just so that we have that information available, kind of like I guess somewhat of an exit strategy or interview. The only day that's not good for me is Wednesday and Thursday afternoon, but
Do you want us to try to set it up?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
If if the two of you are willing to participate in that conversation or interested in participating in that conversation, I'd say.
I would participate if I was available as well, if you want.
Sure, that'd be great.
So James' availability in that email was tomorrow, Thursday and Friday. Maybe tomorrow is a little bit too soon.
I could do like Thursday morning or late afternoon, maybe, or Friday, or
Yeah.
probably Friday.
Thursday or Friday, Bill, how's your schedule?
Thursday or Friday is fine for me.
Okay, I'll reach out to James then.
Okay.
Feel okay for you, Barry?
Yeah. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
All right, well, the last agenda item is an executive session under 1 VSA 113A3 to conduct a employee performance evaluation. I don't suspect that we will have anything to report or actions to take immediately following, so I will welcome the dismissal or encourage the dismissal of Meadow and Orca, because we'll be adjourning immediately following. And with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to enter executive session under 1 VSA 313A3 for the discussion of a performance evaluation, and invite are into that meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Favor?
I,
Thanks.